And we are back.
We are back, bumblebees.
We are doing something new. For the first time ever in the studio, we have somebody who has done a TED Talk. We are here with Emmanuel, and you have a conversation that is very prevalent to the podcast that we are going to have today. And I'm hoping that this can be as in-depth and as formative as possible, but we are going to be covering porn addiction today. And yes, I said it with a P. Hopefully it's the only time that it slips out that way. But know that that's the discussion that's being had today on the podcast. And if this is something that is sensitive to you, you should probably not watch this one. But if you have somebody that's in active addiction or you yourself are struggling with this could be a benefit to you. Do you have anything that you want to jump into right away before we jump into that?
I'm excited to hear about the TED Talk and that.
That's where I want to start. So before we get into any of that, how can people find you on social media? I want to do this in the beginning and then at the end, just in case somebody doesn't have a pen right now.
Absolutely. The best way to find us is Team Vulnerable, everything. So YouTube, at Instagram, TikTok, teamvulnerable.com. That's the best place to find us.
Okay. So what was the TED Talk? What was that? How was that?
The TED Talk was awesome. It was in a suburb of Amsterdam, and we had a real great time going out there. And I did this talk on how I became so successful at a very young age. And on the stage, I know you've seen the TED Talk, I'm all buttoned up and, you know, I look really good. But on the inside, I was going through a ton of stuff and really an imposter syndrome of, I don't belong here. You know, I'm just, you know, fooling everyone. I really shouldn't be here right now. And I was struggling with corn addiction, and I was struggling with drinking too much, smoking too much. And, you know, there was a lot of things going on that stage while I was having that talk. That's for sure.
Do you think that imposter syndrome is something that a lot of people struggle with? Anytime somebody gets any type of anything that you work really hard for something and you get a little bit of it and you're like, okay, I did it. And you're like, but do I really belong here?
Right.
Is this a fluke? We go through that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You know, for me, it started when I was a kid because I wasn't very smart. My parents were like, something's wrong with this guy. I got taken to the doctors. They go, he's got ADD, dyslexia, short-term memory. And they pretty much said, you know, this is what we call in the medical community an idiot. And so they were like, let's give him lots of medications. And my parents loved me. And I got put on like the whole gamut of different things and just trying different medications. And I was able to keep up with the other kids, but I always just felt it's because I got the pills. It's because I got extra tutoring. It's because I got some special break or whatever it may have been. And that's really where that imposter syndrome really began of, you know, I'm not like everyone else. I'm not normal or those kids. But absolutely anybody who makes a lot of money or has a lot of success or whatever, I mean, that is one of the most common things. And people don't even know how to define it when they're experiencing it. And it's really one of those huge undiagnosed things for sure. Yeah.
Did you continue the medication throughout your entire life or did you come off of it?
Early on in college, I just kind of had that moment where I'm just like, I hate these, you know, and I don't want to be associated with them. I don't want to be taking them anymore. And I just slowly started working off of them unless I had some really big test or really big thing going on. But yeah, now I mean, I haven't taken one of those for 10, 12 years, I'd say, somewhere around there, yeah.
What kind of change did you notice in yourself once you started coming off of the medication?
You know, the medications, what was so funny about them is sometimes they would make me happy. I would get off them. Sometimes I'd be a crazy man. Growing up, my friends loved when I wouldn't take my medication because I would just be like bouncing off the walls, crazy, this wild man. And I was just entertainment for the group. But when I stopped taking them, you know, I struggle with ADD. And so just focusing for long periods of time was absolutely one of the toughest things and something I had to just learn how to overcome and learn how to focus in and just say, it's time to work, it's time to play, it's time to chill. But yeah, it was definitely a process overcoming that for sure.
How did you do that, learning to dial in your focus and not get so distracted?
You know, by necessity, I think was kind of the biggest thing. At that point, it's like, you know, I'm in college, so it's not high school where they're just kind of pushing you along and you know, you got to do it. It's, hey, this is something you're doing for yourself. And, you know, I had a lot of energy. I may not have been the smartest or been able to focus for the longest, but I was energetic. I was willing to talk to other people and network. And that obviously helps in schooling. I think once people get to college, that's one of the first things they learn is the networking aspect is one of the biggest parts of getting the most out of that and just getting to know people.
It's not what you know, it's who you know. It's like that in every facet of life. The biggest thing in what we do here in terms of the To Be Better podcast is the networking aspect. The more people that we can connect with, the bigger we're going to get and grow because we get guests like you to be able to come in here and sit down. I'm going to ask you a hypothetical, and I know that this is not your area of experience, but I'm going to ask you anyways, and I just want you to give me your opinion. We know that people learn differently. I learn audibly. I can hear something and retain it, but if I have to read it, I have to read it 15, 20 times to get it to digest it. She's the opposite. She can read it once, but if we're having a conversation, I have to repeat myself. Or if we're listening to an audiobook, it's can you run that back 30 seconds? So hear that again. ADD is very prevalent, and I believe a lot of that comes down to our food, but that's a very different discussion. Do you think that ADD and ADHD diagnosis has come down to people's inability to learn just in a normal fashion, and we drug kids to get them to just get along?
Well, there was two parts to the question. What was the first part again? So sorry. It was drugging them to get along. Absolutely. That's part of it. Because it definitely does bring them down quite a bit. I think for me, I was kind of that first generation that just played tons and tons of video games just over and over. And two older sisters, we didn't really connect. So it's kind of like, what are we going to do with this guy? Let's, I just played a lot of video games, and just seeing a screen, instant gratification, all of that just over time really, really did a number on me. But I'm so sorry. What was the first part?
The first part of that was, do you think that it's because of the way that we learn? Because everybody learns differently.
Oh.
And I would also like to point out video games, as much as I shit on people who have video game addictions, video games are a great way to learn problem solving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, like,
absolutely.
I don't want people to think that in this scenario that, like, because I'm an 80s baby. I had a Nintendo in 1985. Like, I remember grinding games over and over again to get through shit. But when you're doing that on your own, it is how you problem solve.
One of my biggest things, and even now, when my wife and I are watching TV at night, I have to be doing two things at once. I have to be on my phone, on my computer, on my whatever. And a lot of times it's, oh, you're not paying attention. And I'm just going, this is so slow. I need this faster. Tell me how to do it now. Don't do this long preamble. Just go, go, go. So that's one of my biggest things that I've noticed over time is just, I need it a lot quicker. And in school, hey, Billy, stop, slow down over there. And it's like, I'm on to 1,000 other things. So
that's a superpower, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you're able to problem solve in an instant versus needing a shit ton of information to do it. So I have, our producer, AJ, has severe ADHD, and he's normally on it. There are still days that I have to be like, yo, where's this at? He's like, oh shit, I forgot. But that's because he's doing on other things at once. But he's high functioning in that, I don't mean he's high functioning that he's able to live his life. I mean, he functions at a high pace compared to a lot of other people, and he's able to do 6 jobs instead of 1.
Yeah.
So, and I think that equates success to a lot of people as they get older when you are able to harness that superpower and function. So,
I mean, one of the things too, growing up in school, because I wasn't the smartest, because I had ADD, all this stuff, you got to learn to work around that. And one of the biggest things is just, hey, I didn't get that. What was that on your test? And learning how to talk to people, network, and just work as a group, and just let's all work. And my wife was kind of the opposite. So smart, so diligent, but she was all by herself. I cannot ask for help. I cannot. And so we are a beautiful coming together of both those things in life. I'm the first person to ask for directions, and she's, kind of the opposite.
I got this. I don't need Google.
Right.
So you said that when you were doing the TED Talk, you were in a mix of an addiction. You were drinking too much. You were, did you say you were doing drugs too? Or just
weed was my drug of choice just to bring me down. Yeah.
Are you still a smoker?
No, not anymore. I believe drinking, whether it's and weed as well. If someone is not medicating something, if they're not doing something compulsively, okay, but whenever someone's doing it consistently over time, I'm going to have a beer tonight. I'm not going to have 9 beers tonight.
Right, you're going to have a beer.
Right. Exactly. So it's, what's going on there, because weed isn't the problem. Alcohol is the problem. Why are you going to it is the problem we want to handle. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have a drinking problem, but it's no longer a problem because I limit myself to 3 a week. And I believe that when you set your own boundaries and you learn to not overstep your own boundaries, that is the ultimate form of control, because you are able to beat anything at that point. I'm not going to do this more than this.
Yep.
And being able to walk away from that is the best
Yeah.
I fucking got this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I allow myself 3 drinks a week. And I think in the last 6 months, I've had maybe 7 drinks. So it's not like I drink often.
Yeah.
I don't do it every single day. It's if we're having a poker game and one of my friends brings a new bottle, I'll allow myself to have a drink.
Yeah.
But they'll have 2 or 3 and I'll just have my one. But I like whiskey. I like the flavor of it. It's fun for me. It's not, I'm depressed and I just want to not feel anything tonight. You know, so there's the why absolutely matters. Absolutely matters.
Yeah. And I struggle with that. And I struggled with smoking, corn, and it always kind of felt like a whack-a-mole situation for me during those times. I could go, hey, I'm just not going to ever drink again. I'm going to be one of those people who just never drinks again. And then all of a sudden my smoking goes way up, or I'm not going to smoke, and now my drinking goes up, or my eating, or whatever that thing may have been. And so I like to look at it just that holistic approach of knowing, hey, this is what I'm most vulnerable to, whether it's drinking, smoking, whatever that may be. And then going, how's all my other areas of life going as well too? So, and sometimes it's hard to see in yourself, hey, I'm just having a good time. It's the weekend. And it's like, okay, it's been 5 weekends in a row that we're having a good time, you know?
It's noon. It's noon,
Yes,
bro. Like,
and it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
that's actually a very well put thing, because a lot of people will replace one addiction with another and not realize that they're doing it.
Yeah.
So let's get into the actual conversation. We talked a little bit off camera. Can we start with where you admitted to your wife?
Absolutely. You know, I had been dealing with this for about 15 years, and I had always just said, you know, I'm going to stop when I meet that special person. And I remember it was 3 months before our wedding, and I said, all right, I'm done. And then it was 2 months before our wedding. I said, all right, I'm done. 1 month, 1 week, and then it's the night before. And I still remember the scene that I looked up the night before our wedding.
Wow.
And when we got married, I mean, she was the love of my life. For the first 6 months of knowing her, we spent every day together. We were even going to each other's classes in college. We were just like inseparable. And beautiful wedding, amazing time. But when we went to the honeymoon suite, I wasn't able to have sex. And I was having ED from watching. And she's crying, and I felt terrible. And I knew I had to tell her that it was me, not her. And I just said, you know, Becca, I'm really sorry. It's not you. You're amazing. You're an angel. I love you. But I have this problem. And in that moment, I said, I'm sorry, but I didn't say I wanted to quit. And she took that news as best she could. But really, for about the next 3 years, we just kind of slid this problem under the rug. And she just wanted me to go handle it on my own. And on my end, my mind had just been so trained that it isn't bad. It doesn't affect anyone. It doesn't do anything, that I said, I can still watch this as long as I can have sex with her a couple times a week. I can keep up this double life and what I've been doing. So that's what happened.
Do you have something you want to get into? Because I hear you shuffling over there. Like,
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Was it ever a problem prior to have ED to the wedding night? And like, how, if that was, how would you cover it up?
Oh, absolutely. When I got to college, well, backing it up even further, 8th grade, I'm in sex ed class. Don't have sex, don't think about it, don't try it. And I'm going, why not? And what is it? And if God made this thing so special and so awesome, why aren't we supposed to be doing this thing all the time? I was in a private school, Christian school. I was so dedicated to everything they were teaching. I didn't know what it was, but my opening line in high school with girls would literally just be, don't try to have sex with me. I don't do that. And I don't know what it is, but if you start doing it to me, I'll probably figure out what it is. I mean, that's how far I came on this journey. And so I started watching. Slowly but surely, I'm going, they're having fun on the screen. I might as well have some fun as well too. So I start saying, okay, I'm going to start having sex. Start experiencing ED right away in the beginning.
Is this still like in 8th grade?
No. This is now late high school, college is when this is starting to happen. And it's just a slow progression towards that. Start having ED. In the beginning, I didn't know.
That's right.
Corn induced.
That's right. It's the P word is dropped a few times.
Okay, I know. I was going through. I'm just like, I cannot believe.
If this one gets demonetized, it gets demonetized. I don't think they're going to ding the entire channel over it. It is what it is.
I'll literally go through and timestamp these things. I apologize.
It's all good.
When I was going through this, you know, in the beginning, I would just say, it's not me, it's them. I didn't even know that your body would stop working just from watching corn. And then it became, okay, I'm starting to notice this thing. And so I would say I have to stop a few days before if I know a sexy situation is going to come up. So one that's more funny, that was more comical. One of these experiences, I remember I was seeing this girl in community college, and we're not dating, but we're kind of dating. And I'm thinking, all right, we're going to seal the deal. We're going to have sex, and she's going to want to date me. So we're getting hot and heavy. She pulls it out, and it literally feels like it's this big in that moment. Like it was like, I mean, it wasn't. Okay, I see the way you're looking. But it felt like that. And I remember the next day at school, I'm like, hey, do you still want to go on that date this weekend? She's like, I'm busy on Friday. I'm like, the date's on Saturday. So what do you even mean you're busy? Like, you know, and then all of our friends are like snickering and not talking as much. And I'm only assuming that they're, you know, when I walk by, they're like, oh, look, there goes micro Manny or something like that. You know, it's just, that was really embarrassing. And that was really hard to go through. Where it became really, really bad was Corn teaches the mind, you can have whatever you want, whenever you want. And, you know, the world is yours. And one that I was just so sad about, I had a friend I was working with, he had a girlfriend. And, you know, we had known each other previously before they had started dating. And, you know, I was just like, you know, I wonder if, you know, we could even have sex, you know, and if she'd be into me, and just the idea of power and just stealing, and just that's how much my mind had been polluted. So we start texting each other, and before I know it, she's inviting me over, and we start getting things going. ED is happening. She's crying, and I leave, and then I'm literally dealing with her boyfriend the next day at work, you know, and just that shame and that pain and just that embarrassment of having to go through all that was just so, so tough. And even with all of that, I'm still going. Corn had destroyed my mind so much, twisted it. It's still going, you're not the problem. It's the women. You just need to find the right woman, and then everything else is going to take care of itself. So that was some of the ED situations that I was going through.
Did you ever notice yourself experiencing that while watching Corn?
I noticed that I could get going when I was watching it, and I couldn't get it always going when I wasn't watching it. And so that's where I was noticing there's a disconnect here. Something's going on. And that's why I was going, it can't be me, because obviously my body's working. It's got to be them. They need to be more like the screen, which is an absolute lie. But I just started to believe that so much. Yeah.
Did the progression of things that you were watching get increase and able to keep that normal function going?
Absolutely. And that's something that so many people deal with. Everyone pretty much starts the same way. Not everybody, but it's a still image, couple still images. It's a video, a couple videos, more aggressive, more violent, more whatever that may be. And all of a sudden they start going down these rabbit holes that they never could have imagined. And one of the craziest stats out there is that 20.7% of straight men have viewed gay in the past 6 months. And you're like, what? And that's because you need something that's more exciting, more scary, more extreme. And when you're watching something, you're super turned on, you're in this hyper aroused state, and then you see something that's scary. And then, oh, that freaked me out, but you're super turned on at the same time. These neurons that are firing together are now wiring together. And so all of a sudden you see a woman getting beat up, you're like, why do I have a right now? This doesn't even make sense. And it's a crazy, crazy thing that happens. And that stat is one of those, I work with people now and I help them overcome this addiction. And, it's one thing to read it on the paper, but when guy after guy after guy after guy starts telling you, hey, I'm 18 and I'm watching stuff that is, they're saying stuff to me. I'm like, I don't even know what that is, and it's like, oh my goodness, how much it can warp the mind. So absolutely.
Yeah. They say that the pain and pleasure centers in the brain are unique. Like they're very, they're not unique. I'm sorry. They're very similar and they fire the same way and they're triggered by a lot of the same stuff, which is why it goes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
We did a whole episode about how corn chemically alters the brain.
Dopamine responses and things like that.
It's absolutely terrifying to hear that 18-year-old men are experiencing this.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder dating. I mean, of course, there's a plethora of other reasons, but this is a big one. That's just crazy to think.
One of the craziest things, there's a stat where it's like 400 million web searches were reviewed by all these scientists. The number one thing that's searched for when it comes for is youth. But long story short, I talk to people all the time who are like, Manny, it's okay. I just watch legal corn, legal teen corn. It's totally fine. And I say back to them, I go, okay, so you're telling me if you watch this graphic of this 18-year-old who's consenting, you know, you can just lust over that, get off to that, you just love that. But if it's the same girl one day earlier, she's 17 and 364 years old, and she's still consented to all this, and it's filmed, you'd be throwing up, you'd be so upset, you'd be so angry, you'd be, and when I say that, people don't even realize that all of a sudden their mind has just been warped over these years and over this time, and they just start going down this path, and by the time they say, I want to quit, they've lost that ability to stop on their own. Maybe they had it way back earlier, but they don't have that anymore. And it's scary. I mean, we've all seen Sound of Freedom. We've all seen all this stuff and all these just insanely terrible things. And we just wonder, how can people get down those paths? There's that crazy interview with Ted Bundy right before he dies, where he just said, essentially, you know, all the inmates who want to, you know, commit violence against women and all this stuff, they all watch corn. And that was back in the 70s, whenever that was. But now they've done all these studies about, you know, there's huge increases in wanting to perpetuate myths or violence or all these different things the more and more people watch. And it's just a crazy thing. It doesn't mean everyone's going to go out there if you watch some three-way online that you're going to go kill someone tomorrow. That's not what it means, but it's just that slow poisoning that's going on in someone's mind. But
that stepping up is every addiction.
yeah,
it's a smoker that now smokes 3 packs a day. It's the addict who started off with pills, you know, and now they're on like it. That is, and that's also why people who are on hard addicted drugs end up relapsing and dying from a drug overdose, because they're used to doing an entire bag and they take 6 months off, and that tolerance is gone, and they go back to try to hit what they were using before to get the same high, and it kills them. So obviously you're not going to die from corn addiction, but it's going to kill a whole lot of other facets of your life. And that is that gradual step from thing to thing to thing. It's crazy to think about. It's crazy that stat goes to youth as well, because that's one of those things that is so frowned upon in our society, and it's and rightly so. But like, you know, the American prison system has done more to stop rape than the policing system has when you really think about it, because when they go to prison, they get killed, or, you know, or attempted to be killed. But then there's those men who are in there that have probably also searched that, being that that's the highest search. It's a lot to process.
It absolutely is. There's a stat, 1 in 10 users is 10 or younger when we're talking about it. 1 in 10 or younger. And
I believe that. That actually makes total sense, because I was under 10 when I found my first Playboy.
Really?
So
that is terrifying to me as a mother.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Terrifying.
I was in 7th grade when I lost my virginity. I was 12. So to hear you in 8th grade getting your how old are you, if you don't mind?
When I first saw...
No, how old are you now?
God. I am 31 now.
Okay. So our obviously school systems have changed, because my middle school sex ed classes or health classes or whatever it was, they were showing us like graphic images of what like herpes looked like. And like you could see like herpes of the eye is actually a thing, and you could Google that. If you want to Google some shit, Google that. But we learned about all that. So like hearing you say in 8th grade, they were like, it's bad, you don't want to do that. Oh wait, you also said you were in a Christian school.
Yes.
Okay, so I take back everything.
Well, they definitely showed us a lot of images, and I'm just going, okay, but how does that happen? What's going on here? And you know, it's a very touchy subject. It's a very hard thing to talk about and to go over, and there's no question about it. So
the differences between public school and Christian school, though. Just saying.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with my story is I struggled with this for so long, and I had great parents. I had great schooling. I had these big goals, and I still fell prey to this. And that's kind of what's interesting, is anybody can fall prey to addiction if you're not prepared, if you're not putting in the right things. And you know, we live in such a broken world with so much pain, hurt, trauma, all this stuff. And until someone takes the time to deal with that, to work through that, they're always going to be looking for that outlet for that pain that's going on inside. So, I mean, back to even, I tell my wife I have the problem, and then we sweep it under the rug for 3 years. Sex life is terrible. You it was really bad. And I would look for reasons to justify my addiction.
Everyone does.
Everybody, I would look for, just the smallest thing that I could justify doing this. So it'd literally be, hey, what show do you want to watch tonight? I don't know. What do you want to watch tonight? I'm thinking this show. Oh, that show? Are you kidding me? You want to watch that show? We watched that show last. Oh, come on. I go mess up. And then I come back out and she's going, hey, you were in there a while and I didn't know when you'd be coming out. I put the spaghetti away that I made for you, Oh, you put it away. Now I got to heat it up. I can't believe that. And so I'm not the bad guy. She's the bad. How could I not, And it's literally getting down to these minuscule things. And one of the most common things that people say is, this addiction doesn't cost anything. It doesn't affect me. It's totally normal. Society says it's fine. And they don't even know that it's just that slow drip of poison going into their mind. And before they know it, they don't even recognize themselves. And full circle, back to the TED Talk, I never felt present during any of this time. On the outside, things looked really good. We were selling assisted living homes, which is a nursing home and house. And we were like the top real estate agents for that, making tons of money. And I would always just say, once I get that next thing, then I'll be happy. Once I become a millionaire, then I'll be happy. So I'm 28, I'm a millionaire. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not fulfilled. Once I get the TED Talk, then I'll be happy. Go do the TED Talk in Amsterdam. Get off the stage. Still not fulfilled. Let me go drink 8 beers. Still don't feel good. Go smoke 2 blunts in the coffee shop. Still not fulfilled. Go watch Korn for 2 hours. Still not fulfilled. And kind of where I had that big, come to Jesus moment was early on in COVID. I remember a couple bottles of wine, couple weed gummies in. I'm planning on what I'm going to go watch that night. And Becca, in so many words, says, do you want to go have sex? And I'm going, this is how screwed up my mind is. I'm pissed off at her because I'm going, you're ruining my plans that I had set out. And that's how much my mind had been poisoned. But I say, that's fine. Go to the bedroom, try to get things going. It's not working. Try to get things going. It's not working. ED's flaring up. Eventually, I just am like, you're the problem. You're the issue. You're the reason why all this is going on. She's crying.
You said that out loud.
I said that out loud. And this is the lowest. And she's just crying and I slam the door and I just go walk in the living room and I sit down and it's funny because we had a white couch just like this. And I remember I sit down and I just put my hands on my head and I just said, God, I need help. And the Lord put on my heart, he just said, go to Becca and ask for that help. And that was the absolute last thing in the entire world that I wanted to do. But I knew that's exactly what I needed to do if I truly wanted to overcome this thing. And so I walked back into the room and I just said, Becca, I'm sorry. I love you. I have this serious problem and I can't beat this thing on my own. I need your help. I need your love. Will you help me overcome this thing? And I'm just expecting her to say no and just walk out and just leave. And she had every right in the world to do that. And to my surprise, she says, okay. And she's dealing with all types of emotions in that moment. She put on a brave face. She loves me so much. I don't deserve her one bit. But she was there for me. And we started to work through this. And, we had a lot of questions in that time. For her, she'd look up resources, how to help someone through a corn addiction. It would just say, if he's doing that, he's cheating on you, you're going to get a divorce, start getting your life in order, what you want to do after this. And
that was the resources?
That was what she'd see online. And it is just sickening. Or even more sickening when you see people who call themselves professionals who say they help people say, no, you need to watch that with him or bring this into the bedroom or and I'm going, it just, those would be some of the topics, some of the advice that you'd see out there. And so she's feeling so alone, so broken. On my end, I'm going, I've been wanting to overcome this for 15 years. Is it willpower? Is it, I just need to pray for 24 hours a day and just, or is it, what should I share and not share with her? We had a ton of questions. The biggest thing that we found out, though, is that addiction starts to die in the light. When you bring it into the light and you bring it out of the darkness, it cannot survive and it cannot thrive in that environment. And I didn't get all the way better in that point and where we were, but I got a whole lot better during that period of time. That's for sure. So that was one part of it. The next part of it, though, was in the next season of our life, we were working at a family business. My dad was the head of the company, 40-person company, $10, $12 million a year. And all of a sudden, he just dies. COVID, dead. And I'm put in his position, CEO, given money, power, fame, everything the world would tell you would make you happy. And I'm sitting at the funeral, and I'm looking at, he's got hundreds of people who came out to support him. He was like a mythical person. And I just said, my dad did what he was supposed to do with this life, and he just went to heaven, and the Lord said, well done, good and faithful servant. And I said, Manny, if you died, is that what God's going to say to you? Or is he going to say, look at all the things that I had planned for you. Look at all of this stuff that you could have done. And I was just going, man, this isn't it. And the next few weeks and months, the Lord just put on our hearts, walk away and follow me. And I mentioned I was drinking, drugging, all this stuff. You might think my relationship with God was like, I forsake you, or whatever. And my real relationship with God was just, God, thank you so much for just like everything, but like I'm so powerful. I have so much money, so much prestige, I don't need you anymore. Like I'm the God of the universe. I'm the one who's in control. And when the Lord would say, walk away and follow me, I'd say, well, you show me what you want me to do first, and I'll let you know, God, if that's appropriate. So the Lord obviously didn't do that. But eventually we just said, okay, we got to walk away. And about 2 weeks after that, Beck and I, we were at this little, bar restaurant, and we just look up at each other and we go, God wants us to help people overcome corn addictions. And that moment was so cool. But what's so funny about it is I'm going, okay, that's exciting, but it's incredibly scary because I'm still struggling with this. I feel like a lion in a cage. Like I have corn blockers on my phone, but if I didn't have those, I'd probably be looking at it. And I'm also going, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not some smart person. I'm like, how am I supposed to help anybody with this? And to kind of put a bow on the story is a few days later, I'm going back and forth with the decision, and I'm working out in our little home gym, and I feel like a lightning bolt literally hits me from the sky, and I fell to my knees, and I felt the Lord say, raise up an army to fight this evil power. And I knew that us doing this, it wasn't about us or that we were special or we had this special ability. It was about the Lord, and all we had to do was follow him and listen to where he wanted us to go. And so that's kind of how we got started in helping people. Yeah.
You want to hear something really wild?
Yes.
That's kind of how this all came about for us as well.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I was making TikToks and she was making TikToks, and we had our own individual accounts.
It started, he had TikTok and he was making TikToks, and I created an account to support him.
Yeah.
He was trying to do the thing, and I was like, I'm going to be the cheerleader. I'm going to like repost your shit and share it to everybody. And you were doing like the motivational thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then after a while, he was like, you should make TikToks. You should get on there and make some TikToks. And like every once in a while I'd make TikToks, and then that's when we started gaining our own following.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it happened shortly after she got on there, but my content started to change.
Mm-hmm.
I went from trying to be the motivational speaker because, like you, I had already had fame, financial fame.
Yeah.
I was successful. I had financial security.
Yeah.
And but there was a lot of other things in life that I had knowledge on that I figured I could give to people. And I started changing my content a little bit, and she got on there and started making content about me. And then it started to evolve into like a relationship thing. And then we walked by each other in a video, and they were like, oh my God, you guys are together.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of exploded, and people started asking for live streams, and we did a live stream and we had like 10 viewers, right? It was nothing. And we did the next one was like 80 viewers, and then 200 or 300, and then 1,000. But people were like, you guys need to start a podcast.
Wow.
And we were like, there's not a chance that we're doing that. So we're driving to the Naples Botanical Garden one day, and I was like, I've been really thinking that I want to start coaching men to get them to the point where I am, because I have the knowledge. I have failed a lot. I've learned a lot. I have the recipe for success. And she's like, it's so funny that you say that, because I've been feeling the same way. I want to start coaching women.
And we had hardcore discussions about like, how many people could we take on a month? Are we going to do couples coaching? Are we just going to do the individual like gender thing?
we've planned out that whole shit in an hour and a half.
Yeah, we did.
Right? Like we had a
How much we would be charging.
all of it. We had a
Yeah.
full business model in an hour and a half by the time we got to the garden. And on the way back, the conversation shifted a little bit into maybe a podcast, because then we don't have to focus all of our time and we can still enjoy our life.
Right.
And I had just regained my faith after Hurricane Ian. She had not found hers yet. And I'm praying about it. And I'm talking to my mom, or my adopted mom, who's like learning Hebrew to properly understand the Bible. She's super into her faith.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to her about it, and she's like, honey, you need to pray about it. That's her answer for everything. Just, you need to pray about it, give it to God. And we talked about it a little bit further, and then she found her faith like a couple episodes after we decided to move forward with the podcast.
But in him doing, like, regaining his faith, that was never a topic of discussion for us.
Yeah.
Like, he would tell me that he would pray about things and he would bring it up every once in a while, but we would never have in-depth conversations of like, hey, babe, I feel like you should start jumping on this faith train with me. It was kind of, he was on his own spiritual journey and he was experiencing it.
I understand that the Bible tells us that we're supposed to spread the gospel, right? I understand that. But I believe the best way to do that is through your actions.
Right.
Because
Be an
it's,
example of it.
to lead by example, not just give hot air. So I don't want to force my religion on people. I want to show people that I have my faith, and if they respect that, then maybe they'll talk to me about it. And then that's them coming to me to have a conversation, not me ramming it down someone's throat. And that was the example that I was trying to lead by in my house spiritually. And like, so I would broach the subject in a way that we could have a discussion. But we did a single episode of the podcast, and we had a couple of emails come through, and it really solidified, like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And I want to say we were like 2, maybe 3 episodes in.
It was January 14th.
There you go. So we were 1 month in.
Remember that date?
It was January 14th. We were driving to the other coast because we were going to wake up at like 4 a.m. and go take sunrise photos. It was 29 degrees outside.
It was so bad.
Yeah. And on the interstate, I was like, okay, so like let's have a couple of conversations about the Bible, because like there were things that I was like really not understanding. It just wasn't clicking for me. And we were getting off of the exit. I'm gonna start crying.
It's not a podcast till Peaches cries.
We were getting off of the exit to pull up to the hotel, and I said out loud, I was like, holy shit. I was like, I have faith in God. And that day, like, we stopped at the hotel, we dropped off all of our luggage, and then we went to Barnes & Noble and bought Bibles and, like, tabs and notebooks. Like, we did the whole thing, and
wow,
it's been a journey.
that's beautiful.
So we are driving back that morning, 29 degrees. Is your screensaver still your footprints in the
It
photo?
is, yeah.
So we
I'm gonna
walk
pass it to you so you can show them the picture.
we walked down Jupiter Beach. That's her screenshot.
Oh, wow.
Those are our footprints in the sand, because she walked in my footprints. So there's a whole lot of like God and leadership in that photo that speaks to us, but that's a whole different discussion. On our way back from that morning, after having, you know, her finding her faith that night and giving, you know, accepting God and doing everything that we did, we're on our way back, and we're like, look, this podcast has the potential to really do something, but I think that if this is what God wants us to do, we just need to give it to him. And just let it go. And we, you know, for a while, we don't do it as much as we used to, but we used to pray before every episode together. And like, we would have discussions because we didn't want to lead people out of our own ego and out of our own arrogance. So we were trying to be guided in doing what we were doing. And it's evolved. It blew up very quickly, because we've only been doing this since December. It's been a year and 6 days.
Yeah.
6 days will be 1 year since our first episode.
Wow.
So we have we've evolved quite a bit, but it was one of those things where we gave it to God and was like, if this is what you want to happen, then do with it. Like, do your thing. We'll have the discussions. And there are times where I definitely feel like I'm the creator and not him. But when that happens, we kind of dial it back and we pray about it and we talk about it. But we don't discuss our faith a whole lot on the podcast. We do have religious segments that are starting back up after the beginning of the year. That goes live on Sunday mornings with my mom, where she prays and gives her little thoughts, like 30, 45 minutes, but it's Sunday content. But it's crazy how when you pull yourself out of the driver's seat and just kind of let God do his thing, how fast things can go. But it's pretty cool to hear other people say that they've had that coming to Jesus moment where God's like, hey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting with the discipleship, you know, Jesus and the disciples, they would go to cities all the time, and they spread the word, and they get stoned on their way out, and they're literally running for their lives to get out of there. And the Lord doesn't call us to force, this. It's to show that love and to be an example of the love, just like you're saying, and I think you guys are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and just keep going, because this is not some fluke. This is not some whatever, and it's amazing to see you guys just have that faith and just to be walking that. And wow, way to go.
We put her Bible on our Amazon affiliate links, and we have a recommended reading list, and both of our Bibles are on the bottom of it. And in our Discord, every time somebody buys one of them, they jump into the faith channel that we have on there and like, hey, we just bought our first Bible, or we have rekindled our faith thanks to your podcast. That's obviously not what this is about, but it's very
fulfilling.
Yeah,
it confirms everything.
Yeah,
it's confirming. It's an affirmation that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, even with what we do, I'm a believer, proud to be one, and we have programs, all this type of stuff. It's not, you need to get part of my faith and then you can go through. It's, hey, this is my relationship with Jesus. If you want to learn more about that, happy to share that with you if you ever have any questions, but just showing the love of Jesus. And I'm just so glad that you guys are doing that. That is just, man, that's beautiful.
It's a relationship, not a religion.
Exactly.
It really is.
Exactly.
Yeah. I started calling God Dad. Because I feel so awkward when I'm praying. I'm like, hey, God, it's me.
I think prayer is one of those really hard things for people.
Yeah.
Because you have structure.
Yeah.
It tells you in the Bible how you're supposed to pray, but that feels
automatic,
like doctrine to me, not a relationship.
Right.
So when we talk to God, we talk to them the way that we talk to each other. So I have a question.
Before you ask that question, you're gonna forget.
No, because I've been holding on to it for a while.
Okay, I'm gonna have you hold on to it just a little bit longer, and I appreciate it.
Okay.
You were saying that you were like, how am I supposed to do this? I am still struggling. Like, I have the blockers on my phone. I'm not going to speak for both of us. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
Like, we both have borderline personality disorder. We are both still struggling. There are days that are really hard, and we're like, how are we going to get through this? And we have people emailing in saying that we have helped save their lives. Like, it's just, the imposter syndrome is still there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But, like, that struggle of helping people while still trying to help yourself, it's a crazy experience.
I think part of the imposter syndrome is we think, hey, look at all the things that I'm doing. I'm helping these people. And it's nothing that we're doing. God is just working through us.
Right.
And, to finish that part of the story, the last, 5 minutes there, I mean, I said, if God is leading us, then we just got to follow. So the first thing we did is we just started researching everything on sexual addiction, on corn addiction, on just everything that's going on there. I had to overcome this for myself, and we're in an undisclosed location, so I won't say where we are. But when I was in this location last time, that's when I just had that moment where I just said, never again. I'm not ever looking. I'm not ever doing anything. I am done with this. And what we found when we were doing our research is that corn is nothing but a pain reliever for something that's going on. We already talked about it. Big trauma, little trauma, the stresses of life, and it becomes a habit along the way. We lose the ability to stop. And when I look back on my life, I said, that doesn't make sense for me, right? Because I lived this awesome life. I got amazing parents and, all this stuff. But when I slowly looked back into my life and I looked at that imposter syndrome that I had slowly started to develop, going through the recession, my family had some tough financial times, and I had just been carrying this with me for a really, really long time. And I just said, you know what? It's time to heal this pain. It's time to work through this. And once I did that, what was crazy about it is anger and paranoia completely gone. The low self-esteem turns into this high self-worth. This is one that was absolutely insane. I wasn't even trying to do this. I lost 40 pounds going through this process. And I was just like, how did that even happen? The number just started going down. And I was able to finally love myself, and Beck and I's relationship, just the love, connection, and intimacy just grew to levels I couldn't imagine. But what was wild about it, so we go through all this research, we learn it, we make a course, and there was this crazy stat that was like, I want to say it was like 50% of people, when they learned about the health threats of smoking in the 1980s, who smoked addictively, quit, just from learning about the threats of it. And so we said, we need to make a course. So finishing this up here, we made this course. It was for married couples. That was our first course. We made one for singles and kids and parents to go through as well. But this first one was for married couples. We were charging $2,000 or $3,000 for the course, something like that. The first guy who gets the course, his name is David. And David is 22. He'd been struggling since he was 11, watching corn 6 to 10 times a day.
Wow.
So not your average, I'm struggling every once in a while. And I'm like, David, he's getting married. And I'm like, David, you just need to do the course. Just get it. And he's like, I literally couldn't if I tried. I don't have any money to do it. You can look at my bank account. And I feel the Lord just say, tell him to do whatever he can. Just tell him whatever you got. And I just said, David, I don't care about your money. I care about you overcoming this. Just do whatever you can. And he goes, I got $40. I said, then you got the course. So he gets the course. Here's what's crazy. I go, David, tell me about yourself. What's your background? What do you do? He goes, well, I'm actually in the Army National Reserve, and I'm staying in the Army barracks right now. And I go, David, when we started this organization, the Lord told us to raise up an army to fight this evil power. You're the first person to get signed up. You're in the army. You're in the army barracks, and your name is David, God's mighty warrior who took down Goliath. And I'm like, if that isn't God, then I don't know what is at that point. But David went through the course. He's now married. They have their first kid on the way. He's got a new job, making more money. He's in better shape, and he's no longer looking at corn, and he's just having that same freedom that I have now. And when we saw him go through that course, we just said, you know what? If God is truly leading us, we don't need to worry about money. It's not give me a bunch of money, then I'll give you the medicine. It's let's just give this to as many people as we can, try to help as many people as we can, and let the Lord take care of the finances. So we made the course super, super affordable. Literally anyone across the world can get this course. And when we did that, our first year we said, which was this last year, we just said, if we can help 10 or 20 people, that'd be great.
How much is the course now?
It is right at this moment, $9.99 a month.
Okay.
So it's just a monthly. If somebody goes through it in 7 days, then it's free because we got a 7-day free trial. Somebody wants to go through it in 10 months, that's fine too. But in our first year, we have had over 400 people get the course in 27 countries.
Wow.
And we have seen marriages come back together. To your point, we've had kids reach out to us, say, I was going to kill myself until I saw this video. We've had literally people reach out to us, say, I have gone down scary paths and I have gone down these places I had no intention of going on. We've seen literally be prevented from happening. And it wouldn't have been possible without that moment of vulnerability and strength, asking for Becca's help and for Becca's love and understanding, helping me through that. And that's our whole company, is Team Vulnerable. You cannot beat this on your own. The only thing you're beating is you know what. And so you need a team around you. You would have done it a long time ago if you could have done yourself. But you got to be vulnerable. You got to ask for that help. And that's what we're all about. So, yeah.
Do you have anything else? Because I have a whole lot of shit.
I had a question, but it left my mind. So you go ahead and do your thing, and if it comes back to me, it comes back to me.
Okay. I'm gonna skip. I'm gonna bounce around because one of the things that I heard something today and then I had to research it to find out if it was right, and it is. You brought up the David and Goliath thing, and this is just fun nonsense, you guys. This is not really relevant to the podcast. When David was told by God that he needs to go and be his warrior, he turned down all the armor. He's like, I don't need that. I'm proven to not be that guy. And he was like, he went and got his little rock from the river. Well, he picked up 5 rocks total, knowing that God was going to go and put him to war. And he killed Goliath with 1 rock. Do you know why he got 5?
Why?
Because Goliath had 4 brothers.
Wow.
And he was like, if these 4 brothers step up, God, I need to be prepared. And he grabbed 5 rocks just in case. So to tie that into what you said, it's not necessarily God working through us. It's God saying, this is what I want you to do. You need to be prepared to get it done in any scenario. So there is a reason for us to not feel the imposter syndrome, because we struggle with that. And when you said that in the moment, I'm like, okay, like that could explain why we feel the imposter syndrome, because there are times that we have conversations and I'll watch the podcast back when we do the premieres. And I'm like, oh man, that was really good. Right? Like, and in my head, I'm like, where the hell did that come from? You know what I mean? So, and I know that in those moments, I know that wasn't like that thought process didn't come there. So that you went there and I was like, okay, there's that. And then you brought up the David and Goliath thing. And I'm like, boom. So that all just tied in and made a whole lot of sense to me and fun. I just wanted to tie that in.
I'm going to jump in.
Okay.
First off, I love the confidence. He was just like, I don't need a multitude of rocks in case he has people coming to help him.
No.
He was like, I'm going to take all of these out one by one.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah.
Second, so you're chosen upon a skill set.
Right.
So he knew that he was somebody who would have that, not hindsight, the foresight and the preparation to be like, hey, just in case.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, that's right, you smart fucker. That's exactly why I was like, this is for you.
We get a lot of flack for our language. And God has not put it on us to stop cursing yet, even though I know a lot of people hate it. We are reaching people who would otherwise not be reached because we have not changed who we are. So I felt like that was relevant to be said.
I have eased up though. There have been times where I've typed out a cuss word and I was like, no, that's not necessary.
Yeah, I don't realize how bad my mouth is until I listen to myself on my GoPro while we're riding dirt bikes. Because it's every sentence.
Yeah.
But I'm also in the thrill of like, you know, adrenaline and having fun. Anyways, so you mentioned earlier that you had money, you had made your first $1 million, you became a TED Talk guy, you equated everything into that next thing. You were looking for a fulfillment and you were chasing it. That's the rat race.
Yep.
That's everyone. If I could just get this job, if I could just get this raise, you know, if my kid could just get on a roll for once in their life, you know, there's always that next thing. And we've said in the past that starts in our childhood training because you're learning to talk. And then once you learn to talk, your next step is to get ready to walk. And then, you know, you're getting ready for kindergarten, and then you're getting ready and you're getting ready and you're getting ready. So we are teaching and being taught this perpetual rat race of getting ready for the next thing. And we very rarely celebrate those small victories. We got a raise. We're going to go out tonight and get you know, a little dinner. And then tomorrow it's back to the grind. And we don't really take that in. So for you, what was that fulfillment? Have you found that fulfillment, or do you find yourself still chasing it?
Absolutely. When I turned my life over to the Lord fully, and I just said, okay, take this life and do what you want with it. And when I had that moment, when we left the job, I was hoping he was going to say something like insurance sales or something like that. And what is funny is I always would say, I was actually talking to a youth pastor who I knew growing up, and youth pastors always growing up would always come in and be like, I just came back from Africa and I literally had to fight off a lion and there's no food, we're sleeping on the ground. And I would just pray to God, God, please don't send me to Africa one day. I just don't want to do that. And so when the Lord said, you're going to teach people how to overcome corn addictions, I was like,
send me to Africa.
Yeah,
I'll sleep on the floor and fight lions.
I mean, it really was. And I was just like, man. And what's been crazy is, you know, it's been a number of years now, this journey, and we've made like no money, especially compared to what we were doing before. And the fulfillment we have, just our day-to-day lives, just everything that comes along with that has just been so much more than what we had in that past life, when literally it just seemed like we had a printing press of money. You know, that was just like getting upset because we got, well, I won't even say, but we had to deposit money. Oh, can't do it on the online check. I got to bring it into the bank. It's too big. I mean, literally how bad, you know, things were. And people think once I get the money, then I'll be happy. Once I get the fame, then I'll be happy. Once I get, it's like, what is this life really about? You know? And when I realized God is calling me in this moment to raise up an army, and that's what he wants me to do right now. He could say tomorrow, hey, it is time to go to Africa and, you know, get on the next plane. Okay, I'll listen. But once I did that, one of the big things we talk about is I have freedom from not this like I'm scratching my neck on the way here and let me try to find a cell phone since I'm out of town. Freedom from it. That doesn't mean I'm not a human who sins, who has eyeballs or things like that. I have all those things, but it is not this daily struggle because I have that purpose that I know I'm supposed to be doing right now. I have a lifestyle that I can live a life of freedom with this. And that's a big thing that we teach is you can truly have freedom if you work through what that pain is that's going on inside.
When you started all of this, because you were already financially, you had financial freedom. This is going to tie into the other point that I just wrote down. I believe that I suffered in my life the way that I've suffered in my life to get to the point where I am now because I can talk to people who are suffering because I've been there. Like this isn't one of those things where, you know, oh, I feel bad for you. But I've been there. I've eaten out of a garbage can. I know what that feels like. Like, so, but you getting to the point where you were financially stable before being called to do this sounds like a divine plan. Whether you were leading it or not, because I was financially stable before Hurricane Ian. I had a very comfortable bank account. I owned multiple businesses. Life was great. I lost 2 of my shops. I was down to 1 business. I had the financial freedom. I had everything that I wanted in life, and Hurricane Ian destroyed that. And like I had to move all of my employees under one roof. And I was financially secure enough that like I was able to loan out all of my savings And then I sold some stuff, one of my properties and some of my camera equipment to help other people out.
Yeah.
And we were more than comfortable the entire time, but we were bored. So from Hurricane Ian happening September 28th of 2022 until January when she gave her life to God, we had been doing nothing but TikToks and podcast nonsense. Like, but I would not have been able to do that had I not had the hurricane, not had the money that I had, not had the financial freedom to take time off, and not be in my business, working my business that allowed us to do other things. So all of that just kind of lends into the this is what you're supposed to be doing. Do you think that because of your corn addiction, that's why you were called to do the things that you're doing? Because I feel that would be the same thing that I feel, and that you lived it.
I mean, two things. First, when we were making all this money, Beck and I were constantly just like, what are we supposed to spend this on? Are we just supposed to buy like fancy cars? That's what people with money do, or some fancy house? And we just never felt like we knew what that thing was until we felt that calling. And then it was like, now we understand what the money was for. And so when it came to the corn addiction, I remember on my wedding night, I told her, and I couldn't sleep that whole night. I went into, it was like a kind of a little suite that we were in, and I went to the other room, and I just felt the Lord just putting in my heart, this is going to be used one day. This is going to be used. And I was just like, no, this is not going to be used. And Becca felt that when I told her that night. I just said, you know, I have this problem. And she said, I never want anyone to else feel as alone as I do in this moment. I want them to have guidance. And that's one of our biggest things is, you know, if somebody's married, we have them go through the program together as a team, because oftentimes, and I'll just speak for men, when men are struggling with this, they go to an accountability partner, to someone they don't know in some other area. It's like, you got a problem with communication with your spouse, with your partner, with yourself. You got to learn how to talk, how to open up, and how to have this relationship. And so we found that having that person, there's no one more invested. There's no one that cares about you more, wants you to be better from this. And with all that being said, it's very hard for that spouse to help support them because they don't know. So our course is you go through it together. You learn how to communicate and all this stuff. We just made one for people who are single. So that person could be anyone who's that person is most invested in their life. And then one for, we had so many kids reaching out to us, kids saying, you know, what am I supposed to do? And so we have one for the parents and the kids to go through, or a trusted guardian, trusted adult, whoever that may be, because imagine you're being a kid now today with what's available. Who can you even run to?
Right.
You know? And so it's about having that person by your side.
That the financial aspect of all that, and you not having a thing to spend your money on, or however, you know, you guys decided to save your money in that aspect. I did not. I wanted for the longest time to walk away from the tattoo industry and be a National Geographic photographer.
Really?
And I wanted to be able to take pictures of wildlife and, you know, destruction and tragic events. And like, I wanted to be that guy that flew around the world on somebody else's dollars, just taking pictures. And I invested heavily in photography. And I don't mean like I had a little hobby. I mean, like, I would get a little bit of money and go right to the camera shop and be like, okay, I've got $8,000 today. What can I buy?
Wow.
Or there's a $13,000 lens coming out in 2 weeks. I got to come up with 13 grand and go buy that lens because it's going to make me a better photographer. And that was my mindset. And I got my pictures hung up in airports. I got a couple of government jobs where I went and took pictures of said airports. And like, I actually did the professional photography thing, but it was never fulfilling. Yeah. And every time I thought I was going to, like, it became ashes in my mouth and I didn't want it. And Hurricane Ian, I sold all my camera equipment. Wow. Like 2 days, 3 days after it happened, all of it, every single piece except for my lights, because they wouldn't give me what my lights were worth. And 2-3 days after I sold it all, she was like, I was like, I really regret selling my camera gear. And she's like, well, you know, if you wanted to buy it again, I would support that. And we could go, I would learn photography and we could do that as a hobby. So the want to buy the gear and to do that was still there. And I was like, the problem is I know that I'm not going to use it because of the way that I feel about photography. Yeah. I got caught up in the Instagram algorithm, and like the likes mattered more than the creative aspect of it. And I would love a picture, post it, and it would get 100 likes, and I would hate it because it didn't get 10,000 likes. And that was very much a thing for me. But all of my editing, all of my color grading, all of my video work, because I learned how to do video work, and all of my composition and understanding all of that equipment. When I started the podcast, I had all of that knowledge, and all I had to do was learn audio. which was just buying a mixer and going on YouTube and figuring out how to set the mixer for my microphone and going.
Yeah.
So that was the preparation. But I went into this financially secure, but I had more knowledge than I did money.
Wow.
And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing in that aspect. Wow. The other question that I had is that you mentioned earlier that people use corn addiction as a pain reliever. Have you ever heard the phrase post-nut clarity?
I have.
Okay, can we discuss that a little bit, because that was something that I believed in.
Yeah.
You know, I would not make $100,000 deals or higher without making sure that I was cleared, so to speak, first.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Like,
yeah, you know, I think one of the biggest thing I can speak from my own experience. I went to corn for stress. I went for boredom. If I have a big email, I can't do this email without doing it because I feel good in the moment. And it is fun. It is a temporary relief. Nobody's debating any of those things. When we're talking about long term, though, is it building more stress or is it building less stress? It's just like smoking. I smoked it, so I feel less stress. Well, okay, but those are some of the most stressed out people all the time. You know, they're constantly smoking. So we need to look at, why are we going to it in the first place? Why are we scared to be on the business meeting in the first place? Now, one of the big things, because people, when I say I'm anti-corn, they think, oh, so you wear a chastity belt under those tight jeans? No, I don't wear a chastity belt under these tight jeans. We're very pro love, connection, and intimacy, and sex is an overflow of those things. We want you to be connected with that partner. We believe that this life is meant to be lived with someone else. Sex is a part of that. Now, with that being said, sometimes we go, hey, it's just one time. Hey, it's just one time. It's just one time. And then all of a sudden it's every day, and then it's twice a day, and all of a sudden we've gone down paths that you never could have imagined. And that's how the devil works. He doesn't just walk around with the devil and the pitchfork. He's called the great deceiver. And the deception is, hey, you did great on that meeting. You better do that again. Every time you have a meeting, and all of a sudden you got 4 meetings a day, and it's like, you know, so that's my biggest thing there is, the devil is called the great deceiver for a reason, because he is really good at what he does. And seeing past that is what we try to do to help people in the long run. It's going to be hard in the beginning when you don't have that crutch to fall back on. But over time, we learn to handle our problems, communicate with ourselves, communicate with others. Why do I feel stressed out? The thing I have right now, because I don't drink like I used to, don't smoke, no corn. If I'm ever hungry at like 10 a.m., I'm just like, I could eat a whole pizza right now. I know, man, you are not hungry. You're not hungry. What is this really about? And if I can't figure it out myself, I go to my wife and I just go, I'm really hungry. I have no idea why. Well, are you bored? Are you tired? Are you stressed? Are you hungry? You're angry? You're lonely? What's going on?
she actually did that to you?
She'll do that to me.
Okay.
We do halt the BS is what we call it. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, bored, or stressed. And you should literally just play therapist for a minute. What's going on? I'm actually kind of angry. Why are you angry? Well, this didn't go how I wanted to. I posted a video and my video got 4 views and I was expecting to get 400,000. Well, why do you feel like that? Are you trying to be famous or are you trying to help people? Maybe those 4 people were the ones who needed to hear them. Yeah, you're right. All of a sudden, literally my hunger goes away. And so that's what we teach people how to do is, what is this really about? Because we could pluck out somebody's eyeballs and cut off their nuts, excuse my language, but that's not solving the problem that we have going on there, because that person's just going to become addicted in something else. Right. It's, why are we going to this thing? And then we don't need to worry about it. That's where we're at with that. Yeah.
That was a lot.
Yes.
So with that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Look out for part 2 next week. This is riveting conversation, and I think that it's going to get better. So we will see you on the next one.